Welcome. Today, we're going to dive deep into the invisible world happening inside your swimming pool. We're going to pull back the curtain on water chemistry and give you the confidence to finally master it.
So let's start with the most important question every pool owner has to ask themselves. You look out at your pool, it's sparkling, it's crystal clear, so it must be healthy, right? Well, maybe not. Because what you can't see can be silently doing a number on your equipment, damaging your pool's surfaces, and honestly, making the water pretty unpleasant for swimmers.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with why water balance is so critical. Then we'll meet the 5 key players you need to keep an eye on. We'll see what happens when things go wrong, and then, the good part, a super simple weekly ritual to stop that from ever happening. And to wrap it all up, we're going to bust some common myths. Let's get into it.
Okay, first things first, we need to get a handle on the fundamental force that's always at work. See, there's this invisible battle happening in your pool, literally every single second of every day. And it all comes down to the very nature of water itself.
You've probably heard this term before. Water is the universal solvent. All that really means is that it's always trying to dissolve stuff to find a sense of balance or equilibrium. So your pool water isn't just lazing around. Nope. It's an active chemical environment, and it's either going to take what it wants or it's going to dump what it doesn't. And that creates this big tug of war. If your water is unbalanced one way, it becomes hungry or corrosive. It will literally start eating away at your plaster, your vinyl liner, your pump seals, you name it. But if it swings the other way, it becomes scale forming, and it starts leaving these crusty white deposits that clog up your pipes and your heater. Our entire job is to find that perfect, happy place right in the middle.
So how in the world do we find that balance? Well, we do it by managing 5 key chemical levels. I want you to think of them as the 5 guardians of your pool's health, and they all have to work together as a team.
And here they are, the Fantastic 5, along with their industry standard ranges. You've got chlorine, that's your sanitizer. You've got cyanuric acid, which is chlorine's protector. Then there's pH, which measures how acidic or basic the water is. Total alkalinity is basically pH's bodyguard, keeping it stable. And finally, calcium hardness, which keeps the water from getting too aggressive or too lazy. Keeping these 5 in their sweet spot, that's the whole secret.
In this map right here, this is so important. It shows you that none of these levels work in a vacuum. You can't just fix one and ignore the others. Look at how total alkalinity directly props up the pH. And the pH in turn completely dictates how effective your chlorine is. It's all one big connected system, and you got to treat it that way.
So let's start with the king of the castle, chlorine. It's your #1 sanitizer, your frontline defender against all the nasty stuff like bacteria and algae. And this isn't just a suggestion. The CDC makes it very clear that you need at least 1 part per million to prevent waterborne illnesses. So this one is absolutely non-negotiable for a safe pool.
But chlorine has a mortal enemy, the sun. UV rays just torch it, burning it off super fast. And that's where its partner, cyanuric acid, we just call it CYA, comes in. It's literally like sunscreen for your chlorine. It latches on and protects it, keeping it in the water, doing its job for way longer. It saves you a ton of money.
Okay, now check this out. This chart shows you just how critical that relationship between pH and chlorine is. At a perfect pH of 7.2, your chlorine is at 66% strength, ready to fight. But just watch what happens if your pH drifts up to 8.0. Bam! Your chlorine's effectiveness plummets to just 22%. You could be dumping chlorine in your pool all day, but if your pH is off, that chlorine is basically asleep on the job.
And just like pH, CYA has to be in that Goldilocks zone. If it's too low, the sun just eats your chlorine for lunch. But if it gets too high, it can actually lock up the chlorine, making it totally useless. And here's the real kicker. There is no chemical you can add to lower CYA. The only fix is to literally drain some of your pool and dilute it with fresh water. So you really want to get that right.
So we've seen how each piece of the puzzle can cause problems. But what happens when the whole system gets out of whack? Well, ignoring these levels isn't just a tiny mistake. It can lead to some seriously expensive, painful damage.
So you've got the corrosive zone on one side. When your pH and alkalinity are too low, the water gets aggressive and just starts chewing on everything. It'll etch your plaster and corrode any metal parts it can find. And on the other side, you've got the scaling zone. High pH, and your pool starts clogging its own arteries with that chalky buildup, making the water cloudy and swimmer's skin all itchy. And listen, this part right here is what really hits the wallet. This is about way more than just looks or comfort. Maintaining your water chemistry is a core part of protecting your investment. If your really expensive heater or pump gives out, the manufacturer can, and they absolutely will, deny your warranty claim if they pull a water sample and see a history of chemical neglect.
Okay, enough of the scary stuff. Let's talk about the solution. Here's the good news. Preventing all this damage is not complicated, I promise. You do not need a degree in chemistry. All it takes is a simple, repeatable weekly routine.
This is it. It all boils down to these 4 simple steps. Once a week, test your water. Then you adjust those 5 guardians we talked about. After that, you shock the water to get rid of all the gunk. And finally, you just clean out your baskets and filter so the water can circulate properly. That's it. This is what moves you from constantly reacting to problems to proactively preventing them.
Now, a quick but really important clarification, because this trips a lot of people up. Sanitizing and shocking are 2 totally different jobs. Sanitizing is the daily, low-level work of chlorine killing living things like algae. But shocking, or oxidizing, that's the weekly deep clean. It's a much bigger dose, and its job is to break down all the non-living waste. The sunscreens, the body oils, the pollen, all the stuff that makes your water cloudy.
All right, to bring it all home, let's bust a few common myths that can send even the best pool owners down the totally wrong path.
Myth number 1, if the water's clear, it's healthy. Nope. As we've seen, crystal clear water can be silently eating your pool alive. Myth number 2, burning eyes means there's too much chlorine. Almost never. It's way more likely that your pH level is out of whack. And finally, myth number 3, shock is just extra chlorine. Wrong again. It's an oxidizer, and it has a completely different mission than your daily sanitizer.
So here's the bottom line. A balanced pool isn't just about having something pretty to look at. It's about protecting the people swimming in it, protecting your very expensive equipment from damage, and at the end of the day, protecting your wallet. It's all about proactive care, not reactive expensive fixes. So the next time you look at your pool, I want you to look past just the clarity. Because now you have the tools to understand what your water is really truly trying to tell you. And now you're finally ready to listen.